Doug Walker, the Nostalgia Critic, was born on the 17th of November 1981 and was one of the original 3 founders over at thatguywiththeglasses.com, now known as Channel Awesome. He started his YouTube career along with his brother Robert Walker and Mike Machard on April 3rd, 2008 and continues making content to this day. Doug was known for his high-energy reviews of older films with his persona, the Nostalgia Critic, his signature catchphrase being,
"Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to."
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to. Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to.
As of the date of this video, Doug has made well over 500 Nostalgia Critic episodes, with many off-branching projects to expand upon his brand. In total, he's been credited as the producer or writer of 1,115 projects. Doug, very much like the angry video game nerd James Rolf, who also came out at the same time, established a certain niche on the internet. That niche being online video reviewing. You see, YouTube was in its infancy when these two rolled onto the scene. It was a wild landscape of many creators. YouTube was a place for funny videos, you know, cat videos, people putting stuff in microwaves that they really shouldn't, Philip DeFranco, and Fred. But alongside all of that, in its own niche, was reviewing, with many people trying to jump on that bandwagon.
Doug and James stood above the rest because they had higher production values than the competition, well at least for the time, and had exaggerated personas. Kaboom! Standards were pretty low back in the day. It brought about imitators and other people trying to fill their own niche. The two built a brand around the angry and the ecstatic, the loud and the obnoxious, and whether or not you agree with that sort of comedy, it has been the inspiration for many of the content creators we take for granted today. Looking back on Doug's reviews from the earliest incarnations to the more recent, you can see an evolution of his reviewing style. However, you can see a core theme in his reviews. The high energy, the screaming, the very in-your-face approach to telling the audience his thoughts. This has been there since the beginning.
His reviews were essentially an amalgamation of ideas and jokes interspliced within a very chronological retelling of the film. God, that was a mouthful. Or more simply put, a very tangential rant. He would go over the entirety of the film, which isn't very much a review, as it was an analysis, but people enjoyed it. People came for the persona and the subject matter, and the Nostalgia Critic became a recognizable face that is currently worth over 900,000 subscribers, and with many other affiliates, that can easily push that number into the several millions. A typical Nostalgia Critic episode would go something like this. He would go over the film in its entirety, introduce quick-running jokes throughout, and supply plenty of goat screaming. The reviews would then eventually evolve into a review show that included going over the entirety of the film, introducing even longer running jokes in the form of sketch comedy, and even more blatant screaming.
The reception of his reviewing style has been very mixed, and since his style is very much passed along to many other contributors at Channel Awesome, so much so that it spawned a chick version, it's worth mentioning its shortcomings. Critics of the Nostalgia Critic dislike the chronological retelling of the medium, the lack of mentioning sound design and cinematography, and the screaming. As for talking about the cinematography and sound design, there are things that you would find in his extended videos of his brother Robert, and of course the screaming is an acquired taste. These are all fair criticisms, and it's part of why this is a niche market. You both like the humour and are a part of the ride, or you don't. However, humour isn't the only reason people stuck around from the Nostalgia Critic. They came for the subjects he would talk about. There was this balance between the Nostalgia Critic's criticism and the sketch comedy he would bring to the table. On October 30th, 2012, he was planning to drop the Nostalgia Critic character and go fully into sketch comedy with his show called Demo Reel. The premise of the show was supposed to be an evolution for the critic, his first step into acting and dropping the title of the critic. However, it didn't go as planned. Demo Reel was a complete mess.
It is a big fat mess.
It was terrible for many reasons. Poor audio quality with reverb, cheap video quality, forced and hammy acting, and just look at it.
This is your last chance. Give up Demo Reel or face the consequences.
Like you're really gonna kill us. Not even you're that crazy.
Really? Why don't you ask your friend Donnie how crazy I am?
You bastard! What did you do?
Oh, he's fine. Maybe. Actually, we really don't know where he is.
Unless you really love Doug's work, you wouldn't watch this in its entirety. A perfect example at how far Doug missed the mark was the supervillain Shuffle.
Knows how make Gotham fall. I have several identities, all of them dull.
I am Harvey Dent and my face is bent. My evil motivation makes little sense. I was a nice guy, but now I'm deranged, determining my future on the back of change. My attitude can turn on the flip of a dime. Boy, I tell you, this deal's getting worse all the time.
I am Dr. Crane, totally insane, and I only have a few lines in the movie, so next.
Now this is a story all about how my frown got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, don't go too far. I'm gonna tell you a little story about how I got these scars.
He would retire demo reel on January 22nd, 2013, and return to form as the Nostalgia Critic because it was clear that people came for the review with the little sprinkling of comedy. From a business perspective, demo reel would not be Doug's only failure. Another news show, Pop Quiz Hotshots, a show funded on Indiegogo, would also flop and leave people wondering what was just happening to nearly $90,000 that they had donated.
Behind the scenes of That Guy with the Glasses, there had also been serious problems. For one, Doug himself and the other site contributors had been relying on the Blip ecosystem to monetize their videos. In the earlier days of That Guy with the Glasses, this had made sense since the typical video review from most people on the site would rely on the use of copyrighted clips that could get the video pulled from YouTube. What's more, Blip paid well for advertisements. However, as Blip paid less and less for advertisements and eventually disappeared after getting a buyout for a maker, this left some producers in a tight spot as monetizing their videos became difficult. Things were not all rosy behind the scenes either. That Guy with the Glasses missed out on business opportunities even from the early days, such as getting more involved with live streaming. Whilst the producers had experimented with streaming back in the earlier days with events such as charity drives, they missed out on the opportunity to break big on live streaming at a time when there was very little competition compared to the juggernaut it's become today.
What would make matters worse for the site is how poorly some or many of the producers were handled. While Doug was the Nostalgia Critic and therefore the face of the site, it was Mike Michaud and to a lesser extent Rob Walker who would be in charge of handling a lot of the business side of things, and this included dealing with video producers. Michaud would often create problems where there didn't need to be, acting like an authoritative figure in control of the site's video producers, treating them poorly and never paying them. Eventually, this played a hand in longtime producers of the site like Fellis, Mars Girls, and Cybercat, leaving the site they had been on for so many years and contributed a lot of content and even to the culture too. Perhaps most infamously, Obscurus Lupa was let go from the site for not answering a Skype call within a 15-minute window as demanded by Mike Michaud himself.
Whilst the internal politics of the site has always been shaky, it's been a pretty consistent ride for Doug. I respect that he's kept doing what he loves doing, and he seems to genuinely care for his fans and their input. However, I think he must feel trapped by his persona. Demo Reel was an example of his ambition to become something more than his brand.
Doug, to me, is an example of consistent effort. Whether or not you like his content, he certainly puts out a lot of videos with the same level of care into them. However, just like James, he's gotten himself into some trouble. Being one of the founders of Channel Awesome, a lot of shortcomings of the company do fall onto him. He's noted as not paying his employees for annual films, not promoting other channels, and being called out for their Indiegogos. Seriously, guys? Right now, Doug, like James, is doing well for himself. Similar sub count and pay per month. Doug went more, full on with his Nostalgia Critic persona than James did with his, but he's been able to branch out and do other things like vlogs, top 10s, this thing called Orbit Report, and giving more spotlight to Tamara for some reason. All in all, I like these two. Well, thank you everyone for watching. This is just a multi-part collaboration. We plan to go over every member of That Guy with the Glasses and to shed some light on this very niche side of the internet. If you liked the video, please feel free to subscribe to Extramana and to my channel as well. And be sure to tick that chime next to it to stay updated for future releases. Likes and shares are always appreciated, and well, with that being said, thank you again and we'll see you in the next video.